p.m. We've got a number of things to show you and share with you. The chat box is over there, which is just terrific. And then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end as well. And a big thank you to Lori Ragona and the Pacific Western region for organizing all of our time together. So welcome. So my name is Kim Hayden. I'm the Director of Membership and Communications at Neighborhood Unitarian Universalist Church in Pasadena, California. We are a large congregation, about 7 or so members, and I've been on staff here at the church for about 8 years. We have 10 staff and 2 ministers to give you an idea of sort of our challenges and opportunities here. This position started off as just a membership coordinator position about, like I said, about 8 years ago. About two and a half years ago, we moved it to include the communications piece. So my main role here at the church is to oversee all the welcoming and membership stuff that many of our churches do with lay leaders and also staff people, but I also do all the communications, both on and offline. So as we start our time together, I have a chalice lighting for you. This is a piece called In Praise of Technology and Social Media by Karen Villavance-Grace. In praise of computers and routers and servers and all the hardware and software that can help us build our connectedness. In praise of all the gremlins that live in the machines and bug our programs and help us to practice patience. In praise of the trolls who dwell in the internet and push us to live out our first principle in real time. In praise of power surges that eat our data and devour our final draft. For giving us the opportunity to rebuild and remember that our work is as much transient as it is transcendent. In praise of the error page not found, which reminds us that with some people, we need to find new paths to make connections because not everyone uses the same keywords. In praise of servers that drop our connections, which reminds us that all who serve have built-in limits to their capacity. In praise of communication and connection, whether it's face-to-face or Facebook to Facebook, we always risk errors, hurt feelings, and misunderstandings. But it is also always worth the risk. So in honor of communications and technology, I light our chalice tonight. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to be covering in our time together. One of the terrific things about this particular medium that we're on is that we're from all over the place and we're from lots of different types of congregations and churches, some big, some small, some new. And so this is a really wonderful way for us to get together and to talk about social media. So I'm going to try and tailor it to all of our different groups that are with us tonight as best as I can. And if not, we can chat later at another time about some of that. So there are 3 main pieces that I want to talk about. We're going to talk mostly about why social media is important. And the first reason that we're going to be covering is because social media is about people. It's relational, and we shouldn't lose that oversight. The other reason why social media in our churches is because it's very strategic. It allows us to be very intentional about our messaging. And it's also prophetic. Social media has the great power to allow us to reach people beyond our own congregations, and we'll talk a little bit about that too tonight together. So first of all, because I want to honor the fact that we're all coming from different places, and reminding us that we're going to be talking not so much about what social media is, but why we're doing social media in our congregations. I will provide a little brief overview so that we can be closer together on this. And here's one of my favorite images that really, I think, very well explains social media. So if you like bacon, great, and if not, I apologize with you there. But that's a great rundown of the different channels. So Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, checked in, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, Google+, and Last.fm. So different things there that you can take a look at. And then two of the big ones also that are gaining in popularity is video-based ones and photo-based ones, such as Instagram, which everyone's taking pictures of their food. So when you're out at the cafe and the people next to you are taking pictures of their gorgeous food, it's probably going on Instagram. And then if your 3-year-old says something really cute and you capture it on your video, you can put it on Vine and it will play over and over again for 6 seconds, which is pretty funny, unless the kid's annoying. But okay, next. Okay. So this particular slide that I want to share with you gives you a good overview of the most popular channels that we can consider. And when you look at it, it can really sort of help you prioritize. So based on where your congregation is with social media, if you have limited resources and you're just starting, you can see that all the way over to the left, you really want to start with Facebook. You know, the majority of online adult users, and that's the important thing about this particular demographics here, is we're talking about adult users. These numbers change once we get in kids. But Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, and all of those. So that's one way that you can prioritize where do I start, which one, and how much weight you might want to put on those. This is a particular good breakdown to the demographics. You know, who is using social media, and then how that may or may not align with your particular congregation. We're going to be talking a little bit too about messaging and who should you be reaching, who do you want to be reaching, and tailoring your message to those folks. So this gives you a good idea of where we are all together on that. Now this one, I know, I apologize, is a whole lot of information over there, so let your eyes glaze where they want to. But let me point out a couple big things on here that I wanted to share with you. And this is really typical. Some of you may know these infographics that are really popular in social media, you know, squeezing in a bunch of stuff into one. And I should say these last 3 slides as well, these are also the most recent data from the February 2014 Pew Research Center study, so they're pretty up to date. But on this one, I want to show you a couple of different things. This is social media of all active users. So these numbers are going to be a little bit different than the other one. The other one were just adults. So the first thing that you should see is on Facebook, we've got 1 billion users. Holy cow, 1 billion users. That alone should probably convince you that's the channel that you should be on most actively. But it's also good because if you look at the center of the page too, it also reminds us that Facebook, when it's done well, it's a very non-obtrusive way of dealing with people, of reaching your audience. So it's usually fun. It's not very obnoxious, and that's really important to do because you don't want people to get sick of you. Now, the second one you should look at is Twitter. That's our next most popular one with over 500 million users. This is one that can be a real mystery to people, but is so incredibly powerful. It's a microblogging platform, which means you have 140 characters to say something, to reach people. And this is most popular in the U.S. It's not as big across globally, but that certainly is growing. We know that with the recent Arab Spring, Twitter was very, very influential in that as well. The third thing to roll your eyes over to the right is Google+. Now, Google+ has about 400 million users, and they get kind of a bad rap. They're trying to compete with Facebook as far as platforms that are there. And I have to admit to you that I really don't use Google+ that much. Some people love it. I just haven't gotten there yet. But the main reason that we are on Google+ is when you're using Google+ and you're feeding in all of your different posts and feeds into it, it really helps with search engine optimization, which means when people go to google.com or Facebook, because they're connected, when they go to google.com and they type in my church's name, if I have a lot of hits and a lot of activity at Google+, then my return, my website's going to come up much faster. So that's just terrific. So you do want to be on Google Plus, but maybe after you get the other ones set up as well. Then LinkedIn, all the way far to the right, is mostly business oriented. Those are for mostly older folks. So if you can see, most of the folks that use that are 35 or older. And then we've got a couple platforms that are more visually based. I think they get a bad rap, but I think they're super cool, and they're one that you really want to pay attention to. Instagram is one that's there. That's one that people are posting pictures, and now they can also do short little videos that are on there as well. People can do hashtags, which is that pound sign, which then helps group conversations, and people are very, very active on that. Usually a younger demographic. That's why that didn't really come up ranked high in the other one that we talked about. So make sure you're paying attention to Instagram. And then Pinterest, all the way over to your left, is really interesting for people that are real visual learners. This is you're pinning things of interest, or Pinterest, to a bulletin board for yourself, whether it's public or private or not. And the ability for churches then to reach visitors and our members in a very visual format is really intriguing. Think of it sort of a visual curation of Unitarian Universalism. That's how we use our Pinterest. And the other thing that we use Pinterest for is we do a lot of weddings, and we have a ton of brides that go on to see pictures of our facilities there. So don't overlook Pinterest. That is definitely one that you want to think about, and it's fun too. Let's talk a little bit then about, so why is it important to do social media? Why is it important to spend all the time pooling all of these technologies together? And the main reason is because social media is about people. And I think sometimes when we get stuck working on the technology, trying to make sure everything's working, being alone in your office at 7 o'clock at night like I am, it's easy to forget that. But, the name inherently is social. It's about connecting people. And that is exactly what our churches are. So I think more than other users of social media like business and things like that, I think that social media is an even better connection for us than many other people. Let me give you an example of that. I have a number of our church members as friends on Facebook, and we can talk a little more about that later. And I'm able to, as a membership person and as a church staff member, and perhaps you as a lay leader, to really sort of keep an eye on how folks are doing. And I know it's also invaluable for our ministers as well. So it does, I make the choice to blur those lines between personal and professional on my personal, not the church Facebook page, I'll talk about that later, but on my personal Facebook page, so that I can keep an eye pastorally on folks, and then also watch them connect to each other. I mean, that's really, really terrific. But that also means, full disclosure, that I'm really careful about what I put on my personal page. So because I know that is going to be representing me professionally as well. One of the coolest things for me about Facebook is we might have a new member, and we might like each other on Facebook. And I know it sounds so abstract, but I will tell you there is a better connection that we have on our church patio after a couple of Sundays, because I can say things like, "Hey, how'd your son's baseball game go?" And it's really, really nice. Now, one of the things about Facebook, I know social media, when we started it here at Neighborhood, probably about 6, 7, 8 years ago, we really started because I had developed an online bulletin using Constant Contact, which I highly recommend. And we did it first for budget reasons, so we wouldn't have to send out, we've got, I think, 1,200 people on that mailing list. And also we were using fewer paper resources, and that was really important to us, as it is to all of you, I know. And it was so well received. People at first said, well, not everybody has email. That's not going to work. But it really has worked. Out of 1,200 people, I think we hard copy maybe a dozen. to some of our elders. So that has really worked. And when we were able to crack that open and realize that people really were willing and able to receive us electronically, now remember this is about 6 years ago, then we then dove into the other media channels. But here's some of the things that we got some pushback. You know, there's the perception that, you know, social media is really for young people. And I'm here to tell you, and some of you I'm sure know, that that's not true. So you can see on that thing, you know, 57% people think that it's for young people, but take a look at these stats here, because Facebook is mostly 30 to 50-year-olds. A third of the users of LinkedIn are over 55. That's no surprise, because that's more of a professionally based networking opportunity. And then the big purpley bluey one right there in the middle is really important. 50 plus is the fastest growing demographic. So, you know, the argument that's really for the young folks, I don't think is really very valid anymore. Okay. So when you're first thinking about expanding your social media presence, or perhaps evolving it into a deeper way, it's really important to think about the demographic makeup of your congregation. You know, meet them where they are first. We were able to do Facebook. That's terrific. And then eventually, as we then moved on, we invited them to join us in the other platforms. So, you know, we started then really pushing our Twitter account, trying to get people on Instagram, and there's lots of different ways and techniques that you do that to really get people into there. Let me show you a picture of, this is a screenshot that I took of our church Facebook page yesterday, and there's a couple of things I want to show you. Because if we're talking about people, and you're being mindful of who you're reaching, it's a terrific idea when you have your Facebook page for church, and it's a page, you know, it's a business or, you know, institutional page. It's not the other side, which is the individual person page. You want to make sure you get the right type of page, because it allows you to do things like this. It has all of these different insights, and you can look and see who has liked what today, what type of engagement has happened, who you're reaching, how many people have visited you. And this particular one, since we're talking about the people end of it, then really shows you who the people who have liked your Facebook page, how they break down demographically. And I look at this quite frequently to make sure that we're sort of in par with what our congregation looks like. And you can see from this on the left-hand side that of our Facebook likes, 64% of them are female, 34% are male, and then you can do a little comparison with how that looks for all of Facebook. So we're a little heavy under female and a little low in male, but that might really be how our congregations really break down, or who's sort of paying attention to the communications. The other thing that's super interesting is we have a ton of people who like our Facebook page who are in no way connected to the church, which is really terrific. We'll talk more about the prophetic nature of what we do and reaching out later. But you can look then sort of this bottom half, and it shows you then all around where people are and where they're fans of our page. So I think that that's super interesting. The majority, of course, are in the U.S., but not necessarily in Pasadena. So the middle column for us, most of that column are the people that would fall in this little local area. But look, there's Chicago again. Chicago is representing, let me tell you. Okay. All right. So social media is not as age segregated as we like to believe. Recruit your social media or your communications committees based on their social media experience, not on age. And I'm not saying it has to be everybody who, you know, is the most active on social media. Have a diversity of folks on those committees who are working with you. It could be people that have an interest but have no experience, or people who are deeply interested. That's really important. So it's really not age segregated. And be careful not to fall into the trap of always asking the youth to be the technology experts. That's not necessarily a good thing to do. And know which demographic is on which social media platform and then reach them there. So keep people in mind about that. I want to show you in just a few seconds here a video that talks about and reminds us about what churches are doing right now, which is doing sort of short intro videos that we put on our websites. I love those. We don't currently have one now because we are very busy. We've just done a whole new rebranding, new website, all of that kind of stuff. So it's been a little catch up. But the reason that I really like doing these, you see faces, so the website reminds you that, hey, we're a church, we're about people, which sounds a little obvious, but it's important to say. And also that there is some really interesting research that you may know about people in novel situations, new situations, the level of anxiety they may increase based on the unknownness of it. So the more novel an environment is, the greater the anxiety and the poorer of experience that they have. So as congregations, what we can do to help those visitors step into our places the first time is to help reduce the novelty of it by showing them who we are and what we look like and what to expect on any given Sunday on our campuses. So let's go ahead and go to the video. Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about why I like that particular video an awful lot. The reason I like it is because it's relatively short. For me, 2 minutes and 17 minutes seems a long time. Maybe I'm just a little anxious, but it is a pretty short one. If you look around at some of our colleagues and neighbors at different congregations, they can be super long, so no more than 2 minutes. I also like it because it's fairly low tech. They got a little fancy there, but I wanted to show you that this is something that's easy to do. Any of us that have an iPhone, holding it horizontally, can make these little types of videos within some editing software. So it doesn't have to be as big and intimidating as it is. And I have to let you on a little secret about us here at Neighborhood. One of the other reasons why we don't have video yet is because we live in LA. We're in LA. We've got a whole bunch of those entertainment type people in our congregation, and they can't agree on how fabulous the video has to look like. And I just want to do the easy and cheap and easy one. So I think that's what I'm going to do, but don't tell them. I'll just put it up and see if they notice. The other reason I wanted to show you this is because you want to make sure that your video is really accurately representing who you are. And that's a good point to carry into your other social media channels. Make sure that your online persona, your online profile, make sure it really matches your reality. So, be careful who you're showing. Don't skew it one way or the other. Look at the photos, and things that you're posting. Make sure that you're providing an accurate representation to people that are checking you out. And the reason why that is super important is because Peter Bowden, who is a social media expert and a UUA consultant, reminds us that more and more people are now pre-qualified to join our congregations as members because of how much they've checked us out online. I know that it's certainly intimidating to me, but it really makes me a lot more accountable and strategic for the work that I do online. And you may have found the same at your congregations. We have certainly found that at Neighborhood, is that people have checked it all out. They know all of the different pieces, and I can see them liking our pages before they actually get here. So let's keep people in mind then as we're doing this important work. Okay. Second thing I want to cover in our time together is the strategic nature of social media. Taking time to be really thoughtful about what you're doing and why you're doing is really important. The basic tenet of social media is that it encourages us to be, as I said, intentional, thoughtful, and strategic about our messaging. And that's a big word to talk about messaging, because that's exactly what we're doing with this. Think of all of your different posts and tweets and photos that you're putting up as sort of an online museum exhibit. What pieces are you pulling together to curate what story? What are you trying to convey, and who is your target audience? And then also think about what type of engagement do you hope to encourage by those particular posts that you're putting up there. Social media is all about content. The old saying that a business is all about location, location, location. In the social media world and the online world, it's really about content, content, content. And as you move through the development of your social media, whether you've been doing it for a few weeks, for years, it's always a good idea to begin liking like-minded organizations and congregations, following different feeds on Twitter, because what you're really doing, part of it is that you're mining for gold. You're looking for content that you can go ahead and post and use, a link back to your page. Don't waste people's time with irrelevant information. People are already overwhelmed. Just decide what's going to make your post stand out. Now, for us, these are the 3 indicators of success that we evaluate being shared on Facebook. What type of engagement am I experiencing? I love if I'm seeing people forwarding things, if they're posting other things and following up with it. I think that's terrific. And then also dialogue. Can I get a dialogue going on with what I posted? And that can either be online or offline. So for me, an indicator of success is if someone's making a comment about something that I posted or that I posted from ministers, or if I hear from them on a Sunday about a post. That is really good and helps me then to strategize what I'm doing with them. Let me show you some screenshots of our Facebook page, since we're spending some time on Facebook, to give you an idea of the types of things that we strategically do. So this is just from yesterday. And if you look on the middle of the page, you can see we've got all these photos of a bunch of our members and friends. And we did a selfie day at church on Sunday and asked everyone to take a picture of themselves and then send it to me. And those are some collages that I put up there. And it was really terrific. It was a fun way of engaging people, getting them to our Facebook page, right? So I'm being strategic so they can make sure that they go there and check that out. The other thing that I want to point out about that, we're going to be talking about policies and the social media policy that we created for our pages in the next seminar on November 5th, if you can join us then. But we very carefully, we never tag anybody in any of our pictures. The children that are shown on, we have written approval from all of the YRE registered kids every year, so we're very careful about that. And these folks all then, of course, knew that they were going to be posted on Facebook because they sent it to me. The other thing then to look at this piece, then as far as sort of strategic success and engagement with that, it's a little hard to see, and I apologize because it's a little small. But if you look down, yesterday morning, within the hour that I had posted this, we've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4 different people liking it. That's on the bottom. And then there were a bunch of comments as well that came in as the day trickled. As the day trickled, we also had some shares. So people, sent it to their mom in North Dakota and said, "Hey, look, I'm on the Facebook page." So that was certainly so. We do posts of our members and friends as well throughout the week as we do that, but never tagging them on that. And you'll also note, and as the other pages I show you, other screenshots, that we almost always post a picture with text, and that's really important because some of the analytics and the way that Facebook decides how people see your page has changed, and you need to make it more visual and more grabbing, otherwise it gets lost, and we'll be talking about that a lot more in November as well, if that's something of interest to you. This is the other type of post that we do that's pretty popular. We always make sure we put something on there for a particular holiday or other observance. I always do it, and I schedule them out using some of our scheduling software pieces like Hootsuite that you can get. That's a free online service. And I'm always surprised that they go over so well, and I'm always thankful that I remembered them. But, again, looking at this particular one, we had 17, 18, 19, 20 people like that, and then we got some shares going on. The other thing to look at in this post as well is that with this particular picture, we reached 645 people. That means 645 people saw this in their feed. That number may not seem that high, but for those of you that have been doing Facebook for a while, you'll know that those numbers have changed a lot recently. It used to be you could reach a ton of people with a post, but again, with the way that Facebook is changing some of its parameters, it's gone down drastically. So, we could do a post and see 30 people like it, so that's a little bit frustrating for us, and always a game to try and make sure that we get as many people reached as we can, because that's the whole point. This is the other type. These are all different types of posts that we do. Because I'm only one person doing this, I schedule out a lot of our work to hit scheduling it to hit when I'm not here. And I also try to sort of cross populate the different channels. So this is a blog post done by one of our ministers, and I posted it on our website. It then populated Facebook automatically. It populated our Twitter feed automatically, our Tumblr page automatically, Google+, and I think that's it. So with one click, you can see how far that went. So we certainly make sure that we try and get those. Speaking of ministers, I want to show you another brief video in just a second when we pull that up. It's that same idea of a novel environment and not being sure. What we have found is that people are checking us out before they come. They're pre-qualified to think about membership. One of the big pieces, of course, is they come to then check out the ministers and see them in action and watch a sermon. And there are a lot of terrific examples out there of ministers who do brief intros to visitors checking us out. And that's just going to help your pre-qualification. That's going to help people figure out whether they want to check you out for better or for worse. So I highly encourage those. This is a short one, and the reason I chose it again is because it's short. I think that's super important, from the First Church in Providence. So let's go ahead and take a look at this video. Okay, let me pull that back up. Give me just a second. Okay, that would make me want to go to their church. Again, keeping the audience in mind for this, because you're being strategic, you're being relational, that you are reaching out to newcomers, to visitors, and so this is where the intersection of my two worlds of membership and communications comes in. This is not the welcome video. This is not a video for, your 10-year members. This is meant to be for people that don't know you. So when you're getting feedback, just remember that. The video is terrific because in under 2 minutes, it tells you about the history of their church. You get to see their faces, so you know what to look like. So when you a newcomer walks onto their campus, like, there's the minister. And you also get to see the sanctuary. So all of those pieces certainly help with that novel situation and that anxiety. It takes a lot of bravery, I think, for people to come to our churches and our congregations for the first time. Okay, let me show you a few more screenshots about the different types of posts that we do. We will often create theme campaigns, if you will, around either a worship theme for the month, or perhaps, a week, or what's happening with what our ministers are doing. And this particular piece looks like we've got a post that's up top that we did that's meant to be a bit provocative about the upcoming Sunday worship. People always want to know what's happening, much better than just the title. So we're trying to provoke people with that. We actually got with a particular post, I know for a fact that we had people that came to church just for that. That got them. They knew that we were going to be talking about that topic and wanted to be there. But then if you look a little further down, there's another one of those blog posts. So that fed into Facebook, into Twitter, into Tumblr, and all of those pieces as well. And because we were thematically linking them so that people were following our content thread, then you can see as well that we use some of the same imagery as well. So consistency is also a really important thing. The other one that I know a lot of you guys use and is just really terrific are memes. Memes are just photos with words that are on them that you can either create your own, which is just terrific, or you can use some of the wonderful services like UU MediaWorks on Facebook, and they just do such a terrific job with that. With these particular pieces from MediaWorks, I don't know if this one was a MediaWorks one, but from the MediaWorks ones that you can just populate, you're free to share them on Facebook. They have built-in credits. They just ask that you credit them with a photo credit if you use beyond Facebook with that. These memes, interestingly, are a lot more popular and powerful than we would have ever thought. So we get sort of the most bang for our buck, if you will, with these memes. I try and theme them with that worship theme or whatever was happening. If that isn't working, then if I don't have that kind of content, then I try and theme them with the week. So, always sort of a Monday morning thing, that kind of idea as well. And again, looking at this particular post, you can see that, it was pretty good because we had some people comment, we had someone share. So I was pretty happy with that outcome. Of course, I'd always would like more. We also use a lot of humor. There are different social media channels have different voices, and that's really important to think about. And I'll show you some examples from Twitter in a few slides. With Facebook, you can be more informal, and that's fine, but you're still kind of sticking to the facts, ma'am. You know what I mean? But because it's getting harder and harder to be seen on Facebook, you want to have something that grabs people's attention, so that's what this is here. This particular slide, this particular image that I used was purely meant just to remind people about a church potluck, but I got a lot more attention about that, so that's good. And I think it's certainly our UU community members could relate to this particular piece. Okay, let me then switch over a little bit to our Twitter account and spend a little bit of time with that since we're talking about strategy and being strategic about your. I don't mean for you to try and read this because it's way too small, but what I want to show you is a couple of things. If you were to look, and I don't have a screenshot, I should have, I'm sorry. If you were to look at some of our different channels, you will see some of the same imagery. So that same sort of leafy campus shot that we've got in the back is the same. We use as much as we can the same font, and then we use the same chalice. So we have recently undergone a new sort of branding and imaging work here at the church to make sure that those all come in place with the style manual. Again, so that you are consistent about your messaging, so what's getting across is what the content and not maybe sort of the haphazard way people trying to figure us out. So let's take a deeper look into Twitter for you. Twitter is sort of, to me, like a game to figure out how I can fit 140 words, characters, 140 characters on those lines, and it's always like a game of Tetris or something for me personally with the way my brain uses. I want to show you this page because I want to show you a couple of different ways that we're using Twitter. So there are a couple, like 3/4 the way down where it says buying an island. That's just a link to the blog. So I've populated that, so I haven't had to pay attention to that too terrible. If you look a little further up, because I'm always searching for content, you can see I've retweeted a quote from Meadville that's on there. Stepping up one more, you can see a little precursor, or a little shout out to our sermon that was coming up the following Sunday. And then there's two other things I want to show you. The top post, and then also the very bottom post, which maybe is a little bit easier to see, has a number of different characters put on there. So oftentimes when there is news that's happening that we want to comment on, we'll go ahead and put that on Twitter, but we will use the characters in such a way so that it has a greater impact. And this gets a little bit more into the propheticness of this work, which I'll talk about in just a minute. But since this slide is up, I want to show you. So this one that is a congrats to Michelle Obama. Many of you know this, so my apologies if you do. But looking at that where it says congrats to @MichelleObama, so by using her Twitter handle, our feed, our little note, is going to populate her Twitter. So she's going to know that Neighborhood Church in Pasadena said something about her. And then there is the other Twitter handle that she has, the First Lady of the United States handle. That's right there. And then the other thing I want to do is I want the UUA. Do you see where it says at UUA? I want them to see the type of work that we're doing. And then if I hashtag United for Vets, that's going to come up in the conversation feed for this. So it's a terrific way of really leveraging the work that we're doing. So it takes a little bit of work to try and dig those out, but once you get used to it, there are easy ways to figure out where you should be hashtagging and who you should be connecting to and all of that kind of stuff. Okay, so with that segue, then let's talk more about sort of the propheticness. And I think really, from our perspective, the important opportunity, if not obligation, we have with social media to reach beyond our own walls. I know many of us work so deeply in the social justice world, and this is just a terrific way of going even deeper, even deeper global, if not. So if we're creating these opportunities to expand our influence and reach with these messages of acceptance, compassion, and equality, I really think that should be our top priority. I've got another video that I want to show you just as a way of talking about resources that you have as a congregation about this. It can be as simple as educating people out there, both internally and internally, about Unitarian Universalism. What is the message that we have to share? And this is something that you can also put on your Facebook page, your website or Facebook page. So let's go ahead and roll that video, the last one. Okay, I'm going to come back in just a second. Okay. That's one that many of you may have seen done by the UUA, and it's just terrific. And a very entry level is a great way of reaching out with just the definition of who we are. And I would really recommend taking a look at those for your different social media channels and your website as well. And of course, always crediting people with that. So that is important to do. One of the people that I really enjoy in sort of the Twitter world is a UU minister working out of the UK, Andrew Pakula. I really like his work on Twitter, and I would encourage you to follow him. and see what he's up to, because he's got some interesting challenges. You know, he's living and presenting a ministry in a largely secular country, and so he sees it as his sort of deep obligation to reach out into his community, and has done so in a really effective way. So I want to show you a couple of his tweets. I know it's a lot to look at, but I'll break it down for you. He uses a lot of humor. I think the thing that I like the best about Twitter is that, you know, you can be a little cheeky on it. It's a different audience, and if you're already doing this, you'll know that you sort of find a voice that you want. And he's a little cheeky, and I really appreciate that. So you can see, you know, the one that he's got up top, you know, his congregation's getting hate tweets from U.S. right-wingers, and they're on the right path. And then he's tagged his website on there, so getting traffic on there. And then he's got, knowing that he's kind of in a secular community and people don't really know what to make of Unitarian Universalism, you know, he's getting a little funny there, you know, with tweets to God, so much so that they're kind of progressive, and all the way at the bottom, he's actually then hashtagging Dear God, to have that come up on a feed. One of the fun things to do with Twitter is just to play around with the feeds and see who's saying what about different things. Here is a couple more. These are two of our Twitter posts that we did, and you can sort of get a sense of our voice that we use with this. Again, you know, it's informal. Facebook is informal, but this one is a little more cheeky. So we, Pope Francis, we tagged him on one of ours with the hashtag, and then further, so I'm always looking for this type of content out there. And then the other one was just a reminder to our folks about a service that was coming up. Okay, I want to show you this one, last one from Twitter, because I want to show you a little bit about sort of how a tweet can expand your reach. If you look at this one, there's a couple different things to see. What ends up happening with Twitter is that you want to develop this network of people who are paying attention to what you're saying, and you can do that by following them, following their feed on Twitter, and retweeting them, do things like this. This is a particular piece that this person from a Peace Academy, which is a high school out here by us, asked us, so at Neighborhood UU, they asked us to retweet this particular piece because they had an event coming up and wanted to get the word out. Terrific marketing. That's so, so, so good. So they found like-minded organizations, asked us to retweet it so that our followers and that their followers would be able to see what was happening for them. And you can see then in the upper top that then we obliged. We went ahead and retweeted that for them, which is good social media karma. You definitely want to make sure that you do that. Okay. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time out to be with me here to talk about social media a little bit. This is my contact information, and you're more than welcome to contact me with any specific questions, issues, or concerns that you might be having. And as Lori had said earlier, we've got 2 other sessions that are coming up that I hope that you consider joining us for. On November 5th, we're going to be looking a little bit more sort of examples of best practices, taking a deeper look at procedures and social media policies and how to be transparent for the world with that, and then also diving into analytics and evaluation as well. And then on December 4th, talking then about how all of this then translates into membership and visitors and engagement. So that's all great, Kim. It's all pretty and wonderful, but what kind of difference is it going to make in our congregations? And so I would encourage you to join us for those. So thank you so much for your time tonight. We're going to stay on and do some Q&A if you have that. And I also want to remind you to complete the brief survey that Lori will be sending to you tomorrow or the next day or so. So please make sure that you do that so we can help tailor our next 2 sessions for you, and let us know what you're hoping to get out of those. And before we then go to the Q&A, I have some closing words for us. This is from Steve Crump. That which is worthy of doing, create with your hands. That which is worthy of repeating, speak with a clear voice. That which is worthy of remembering, hold in your hearts. And that which is worthy of living, go and live it now. Thank you so very much for your time tonight. And I think Lori will help us open it up to questions.